is Joy News Prime.
Tonight on Joy News Prime, Minister of Finance tables government request to Parliament for approval to raise and spend an additional 1.9 billion cedis in 2016. Meanwhile, government says fuel insecurity is to blame for the current electricity supply challenges the country is having to endure, but insists the problem will be resolved soon. One dead in severe flooding in two northern region communities.
And coming up in business, government estimates new total petroleum revenue at 1.4 billion Ghana cedis for 2016, down from the 2 billion cedis originally projected, and fixes benchmark price at $45.35 a barrel to reflect global crude oil price decline.
And President Mahama asked Ghanaians to emulate late President John Evans Atta Mills as he commissions Presidential Library in Issa. Also coming up is sports, entertainment, and Joy News Interactive. Joy News Prime, Ghana's most comprehensive 2 hours of television news, is also available across Europe on ABN television. My name is Israel Lai. Stay tuned. President John Mahama has urged Ghanaians to emulate the qualities exhibited by the late President John Evans Atta Mills. He cited his peaceful nature and the acceptance of different views from all walks of life, attributes he says set him apart from his peers. According to him, such is the legacy that is guiding him in his presidency. President Mahama appealed to Ghanaians to emulate these attributes to move the nation forward. He was speaking at the commissioning of the Atta Mills Presidential Library in Cape Coast, from where Richard Kujonyako reports.
It's certainly the day of the commissioning of the Presidential Library here. It is just opposite the Cape Coast Castle. It is adjacent to the Cape Coast Court Complex, and it is situated at the popular Chapel Square. The President, John Dramani Mahama, a short while ago commissioned this project. It has an audio room where when you enter, you hear the voice of the late President John Evans Atta Mills. There are a whole lot of people who grace this occasion. Her Excellency, the former President of Malawi, Joyce Hildebanda, was here, and people have been trooping in and out of this edifice. In fact, it is all joy for the people of Cape Coast. People even thought that this library was not going to be commissioned because the pace of work and the progress of work was not to their satisfaction. The library has, among other spaces, an auditorium for public lectures, seminar room for syndicate discussions, and a beautiful pergola for functions. Unique to this library is a virtual sound room that echoes the voice of Professor Atta Mills in his memorable speeches and images that bring to life his sojourn on this land as a celebrated academic, a keen sportsman, a humble politician, a devout Christian, a servant leader. Though a bookless library, it will preserve and make available the papers, records, collections, and historical materials of Professor John Evans Atta Mills and other worthy industrious and illustrious sons and daughters of Africa. The library will also host research scholars, organize scholarly conferences and public lectures, hold outreach programs for the benefit of school children and the communities in the area, and mark commemorative events linked to anniversary observances of historical events and the commemoration of the lives of President John Evans Atta Mills and other prominent African intellectuals and political leaders. Speaking at the commissioning, the President John Dramani Mahama indicated that nothing better immortalizes the dream of the former president than this edifice. He called on Ghanaians to emulate the peace-loving character of the former president.
A peace-loving man, he prioritized peace above all else, because as Prof always rightly stated, without peace there can be no progress. He was on the Rock of Gibraltar, always calm even in the most adverse circumstances. He never responded when insults were cast at him. I believe I partly take from him my stoicism in tolerating even the unkindest cuts from my opponents and detractors. Since 1992, Ghana has established itself as a beacon of democracy. 6 successful elections and 2 peaceful transfers of power from one political party to another. One would presume that such transfers of power have been smooth and without rancor or acrimony. And yet beneath that veneer, our history has recorded persons asked to proceed on leave, dawn raids of the homes of political opponents ostensibly in search of arms, seizure of cars and other assets. With his father for all reputation, Professor Mills resisted any such urge to carry out a purge when he came into office. This was not in conformity with the popular thinking in our party. And yet he calmly said, this is not a coup d'etat. We must ensure a peaceful transfer of power. This is the man we celebrate today.
Some of his close associates who spoke with Joy News couldn't hide their excitement.
So as the president said, many other things have been done in his honor, but those encapsulate all the things that he stood for. The love for Ghana and also for Cape Coast and the Central Region, the love for education and for research, and the love for the people. Citing this here and not on the campus gives this library as a library which should be accessible to the community. So it actually encapsulates all that the man stood for.
Look at the heavy traffic that is going in. Look at the excitement. It's not only a library, it's a historical piece. And some of us are happy and we thank God for the opportunity to be part of this part of Ghana's history. I mean, if you go in there and you look at the audio-visual room, you walk into the library and you are met with President Mills' voice. I mean, for some of us, if we should walk out of politics today, we can do so. I mean, not that I intend to, but we can walk home comfortably and say we can get back into academia, get back into research, and really tell the story about our Tamils, both locally and internationally. I'm excited.
For me, I've moved from sorrow to joy because the legacy of Professor Mills still lives on. And I'm happy to say that my children, my grandchildren will come and read something about someone who has mentored me, someone who has brought me this far, someone I've worked with from 1996 till the very last minute. The good Lord himself called him. So today is a day of joy, it's a day of celebration, a mentor, a father, an inspirer. We are celebrating him, and for me, look at this edifice. It tells a lot of story, and I think that we thank God for everything.
From the Presidential Library here in Cape Coast, my name is Richard Kwejonya for Joy News.
Now, as part of activities to mark the 4th anniversary of the death of the late President Atta Mills, a lecture addressed by former Malawian President Dr. Joyce Banda was held at the University of Cape Coast. Let's go on the lines now. Speaker correspondent Richard Kwejonya, who was at that program. Good evening to you, Richard. What are the highlights of Dr. Banda's speech?
Well, Dr. Hilda Banda, the former Malawi president, has been eulogizing the former president, and he's been telling the audience when he came to know the former president, and he firstly mentioned the Synagogue Church of All Nations where they both met, and even the pastor there told her about the former president. Since then, her life has changed. The former president has impacted her life, some of the virtues, the patience, the humility, and everything there is about an astute politician, an astute leader. He's been basically telling the audience that one. And the striking thing that she has also been saying is that politicians and leaders of Africa who have dipped their hands in the taxpayers' money and they have absconded with them, and those who are still in office should kindly return the money of the taxpayers for development of the African continent. According to her, it is not the character of the former president, and the little that she's known about the former president, he did not steal the taxpayers' money, and he did not allow these things to happen, and so they should kindly bring back the money they have stolen from these people. And the other thing that he also mentions was the journalistic work of people. He mentioned that journalists who do and expose the corrupt acts of political leaders should be revered, or they should be praised, rather than going after them and saying that they did a poor job. He says that the role of journalists on the African continent is very critical and pivotal to the development of Africa. And so the president and the leaders that are on the African continent should really give journalists the support to enable them to expose more corrupt acts in the system.
All right, thank you very much, Richard Kojo Nyako there. Moving on to other stories, government has attributed the country's energy challenges to the problem of fuel insecurity, explaining that even though there's enough capacity to generate electricity, securing the fuel for the thermal plant is not being readily available. Prolonged erratic power outages in many communities across the country have persisted for more than a month as a result of the shortfall in the supply of electricity. Although government has been giving assurances that the power situation would ease, some consumers say the situation is getting worse by the day. But government insists it is doing all it can to resolve this persistent challenge. Araba Kumsing has more in this report.
Various government officials have often attributed the current energy challenge mainly to disruptions in Nigeria's troublesome energy sector. As a result, they point out, a cheaper option of gas from Nigeria is no longer reliable. Although consumers have had to endure the subsequent outages for a while now, government officials explain it is a temporary problem and not a protracted crisis. President Mahama indicated government, as a result, would not declare load shedding, and the Electricity Company of Ghana has also complied, refusing to release a schedule for the outages. Earlier this month, Finance Minister Seth Tepe, who's acting as Power Minister, indicated on Joy FM's Super Morning Show that the challenge should be resolved sooner than later. However, presenting the supplementary budget in Parliament Monday, he noted that the current installed capacity is enough to meet demand, except securing fuel for the plants has been the challenge.
We are not out of the woods yet due to challenges of fuel security. The current power sector bottlenecks emanate from the torrent-bearing challenges and the supply of gas, as I noted, from the West Africa gas pipeline. These incidents have reduced the amount of gas supplied to power plants which run mainly on gas. Mr. Speaker, in a bid to ease the current challenges, government is supporting the delivery of 400,000 barrels of light crude oil to feedstock and add to enable the dual fuel plants that we have produce more power.
Petroleum Minister Emmanuel Kofi Boah backs his colleague minister on that score, explaining attacks on pipelines in Nigeria have forced energy companies to cut back supply.
Enable the dual fuel plants that we have produce more power.
The problem is that we have no control of terrorists who decide to blow the pipeline that will bring the gas to Ghana. That's the challenge.
So, Honorable, subject to the fact that you've made this arrangement with WAPCO, when are the gas going to start flowing from Nigeria to hit us?
As soon as we are able to repair those damaged pipelines and there's some certainty that they won't be blown up. That's the challenge we have. But that's why we are working overnight to make sure that we, as a country, can address the issue of import of LNG and can address the connection of East-West pipeline so that ultimately we will be independent of all this. We are working day and night. But let me tell you, there's a challenge, and some of the challenges, like blowing the pipeline that bring the gas to Ghana, me and you, we don't have control.
The Corporate Affairs Director of the West African Pipeline Company, WAPCO, Harriet Werko-Brobe, has however explained the company suspended the flow of gas from Nigeria to Ghana because government has refused to pay its bills for previous supply.
We are still expecting some payments to be made. Right now, the outstanding debt for WAPCO itself is 104. I mean, you understand that WAPCO's client is NGAS, that's the supplier of the gas. We provide the transportation service to that company, and we expect them to pay us for the service that we render to them. I think that was the intention at the time. It has not happened that way for reasons that may be provided, but so many are standing. Well, we don't know that yet. We don't know that yet. We are still in discussion. We are hoping that there will be a plan.
Well, in spite of all of the assurances that have been given by government, many consumers Joy News have been speaking to say they are indifferent and they are not sure that the problem will be solved anytime soon.
So in Ghana, I think it's very bad, and from the look of things, business are going slow, and we can't make ends meet from it. So we beg the government to do much about it so that our light will come back.
I have light, but I think it comes in the morning, and we were able to use it all throughout the night. This morning when I woke up, I was expecting it to go, but I still do have light. But as you all do know, way back in when we used to have it, some people, because of the way they schedule it, maybe sometime we are expecting lights to go about our normal duties, but because of the situation, most of us were not able to, have our work done in a more productive way. But I think that the government is also doing the best to help curb the situation. I learned that maybe this week or next week, the car power ship and some of the policies they are putting on the table, I think is going to help bring the situation back to normal, where Ghanaians will enjoy 24/7 electricity, so that our job can be effective in what we do for the country.
I don't really like the Dumsor issue in that, aside me ironing coming to work, at times we come to work and then there will be no lights in the office. People will come and then they wouldn't be able to do what they are supposed to do, and they would rather blame it on us, Airtel, as in Airtel is not good, Airtel is not that. Meanwhile, it's not us, it will be the results of Dumsor. So I think the government should do something about it.
I think it's affecting us both business-wise and even at home, because for 2 days now our lights have been off at home, and for business you come to work hoping to have lights. When you come, the lights are off, so your PCs and every other gadget that uses electricity is off. It's really affecting us. You have clients that are coming in that you need to do something with your PC or anything of that sort, and the power is off, so he has to go and come, and it's really affecting us badly. So the government should come clear and let us know if it's the Dumsor that we are in. They should just come out and let us know if it's a timetable that they are going to bring. They should just let us know, and all this promise and fail is not helping us.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We'll be bringing you more on what the finance ministers had to say in Parliament regarding the supplementary budget and the fact that they're asking for 1.9 billion, additional spending of 1.9 billion cedis. We'll bring you all that and more when we come back from the break. Stay tuned. Watching Joy News Prime, we now bring you a quick update on the power supply challenges, electricity supply challenges that has persisted for more than a month now. The head of communications at the Volta River Authority, Gertrude Kumsing, is assuring the challenges should ease by close of day Monday. According to the authority, the Volta River Authority is taking delivery of crude oil to power the thermal plants, which will significantly improve the electricity supply situation.
Petroleum goes through a lot of processes and is used for various purposes. But for our purposes, we buy light crude oil, what we call LCO. Now, when it arrives, it has to be tested, it has to be treated, it has to go through, let me use the word protocol of procedures that various institutions, including customs, standards board, naval, the Navy, and so on and so forth. It has to go through a lot of processes. That is why VRA over the years has stored treated fuel. Usually when we are making announcements about, maybe gas not being available, we add that about 600,000 barrels of crude oil treated is on standby to be used whenever we have to take off gas supply. And so, as you know, there was a problem with the FPSO, and so the fuel supply, the balance became a problem. And so we had to bring in LCO, which was also delayed. But usually VRA will have about 600,000 barrels of treated treated LCO ready to be used.
So as we speak, that which you used to have in terms of treated crude, you do not have at all as we speak?
As we speak, what arrived last week or so has been treated, and my checks this morning indicates that 2 of our turbines are already on LCO.
Now, Finance Minister Seth Terkper was in Parliament on Monday to request approval for government to raise and spend nearly 1.9 billion cedis more than they planned to this year. The minister told Parliament during the presentation of the supplementary budget, this has become necessary because the funding sources stated in the 2016 budget are unlikely to bring in the amount originally anticipated. Among the factors undermining the attainment of the revenue targets, Mr. Terkper highlighted include the drop in crude prices and the damage to the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah, which has resulted in lower than expected output from the Jubilee field. Here's a news desk report on highlights of the presentation.
The Finance Minister's justification for Parliament approval of government's request for the 1.88 billion cedis was based on 3 main factors.
As mentioned earlier in this presentation, the aim of this supplementary estimate is to seek parliamentary approval to commit additional resources outlined in this report to fund additional expenditures resulting from the revisions made to the 2016 budget. In this regard, we are requesting approval for a total amount of 1,888,203,387 Ghana cedis as supplementary estimates for the 2016 financial year.
However, says the request for additional funds would not necessarily mean an automatic increase in the budgetary allocations to the MDAs and MMDAs. The minister indicated the energy levy introduced at the end of last year has helped government work out a restructuring plan for the debts of the Volta River Authority and the Tema Oil Refinery. The target, he says, was to clear the 2.2 billion cedi debt in 3 to 5 years.
Refinancing of energy sector SOE debt. Mr. Speaker, government achieved another debt restructuring goal by assisting VRA and TOR management to engage major commercial banks to improve the terms for part of the debt on the authority's balance sheet. It also involved the first use of the energy sector levy passed by this House to make the energy and banking sectors more stable. The plan involved the restructuring and repayment of about 2.2 billion Ghana cedis over 3 to 5 years, with an upfront payment of 250 million Ghana cedis from the levy.
There has in recent times been concerns that Ghana's program with the International Monetary Fund is likely to run into some problems after the 4th review was deferred. Mr. Terkper, however, stated that the program is on course, with a review now scheduled for August this year.
Support for the balance of payments that was disbursed after the approval of the program, Ghana has so far had additional 229.5 million resulting from the second successful reviews in September 2015 and January 2016. Mr. Speaker, the 3rd review mission to assess performance under the 3-year ECF program was held in May 2016. As noted by the mission in their concluding statement, implementation of the ECF program, notwithstanding headwinds from low commodity prices, remains broadly satisfactory, with most of end December 2015 performance criteria met. The IMF is expected to approve the review by end August 2016, after additional plan actions set by the fund are satisfied. It is important that these plan actions came after meeting the program targets and were not part of the program targets.
The lower than expected revenue has meanwhile led to a reduction in the amounts initially earmarked for a number of sectors and agencies, with the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation one of those affected.
Right, it's time for business, and it's all about the supplementary budget review and
Yes,
the estimates that the finance minister presented. Good evening to you,
Good evening,
Emmanuel. I'm sure you're going to be talking a lot more about
Yes.
that.
It's all budget mid-year budget review day.
Yeah. All right, you take it away.
Thank you. Thanks for being with me on business. Now, Finance Minister Seth Terkper has fixed the new petroleum price benchmark for revenue calculation at $45.35 a barrel for the rest of the year. Seth Terkper said the current $45 to $48 is still below oil price projection used in the 2016 budget. He said this, coupled with the defects in FPSO, has affected Ghana's production of oil and revenue it gains from the sale.
Crude oil prices fell to $28 per barrel as noted earlier. We also noted the defects in the FPSO, as well as, on a more positive note side, the imposition of levies that have resulted in an increase in revenues. Mr. Speaker, using the methodology prescribed under the PRMA, the price of $86 per barrel, or even the revised price of $53 per barrel, will not be met. Mr. Speaker, based on the revised price of $53 per barrel and quantity of 38.73 million barrels used for the 2016 budget, the estimated total petroleum receipts was 2 billion Ghana cedis. Of this amount, 1 billion was allocated to the ABFA to finance critical capital projects. Mr. Speaker, the crude oil price is estimated to average a wide range of $40 and $50 per barrel for 2016, lower than the average of $53. These developments will obviously affect the implementation of the 2016 budget. Mr. Speaker, on the authority of His Excellency President Mahama and consistent with Section 7, subsection 2 and 3 of the PRMA, I would like to recommend to the House a revision in the benchmark revenue and its associated expenditures outlined in the 2016 budget. The purpose is to ensure the achievement of the macroeconomic objectives, prudent management, and also transparency.
Now, a 5-year-old girl who was defiled by a teenager suspected to be her cousin is passed on at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital in Kumasi. Efia was expected to undergo another surgery after she had a successful one in June this year, but her condition kept worsening by the day, eventually leading to her demise. She was pronounced dead at about 8 p.m. on Saturday.
5-year-old Efia was left under the care of her cousin Kofi Dapa when the parents went for a funeral in the Upper West region. But the young man was reported to have had sex with the girl on countless occasions in the absence of the parents. Efia was badly damaged and needed to undergo surgery to correct her deformity. The case was reported to the offensive police and the 19-year-old was arrested and put before court. Kofi Dapa is now serving a jail term of 24 years, but Efia was left to rot at a Good Samaritan's house in Offenso until some individuals came to support following Joy News' Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin's reportage. In her first surgery, a tumor was found in Efia's private parts, which made her unable to pass urine and fecal matter. While waiting for 2 weeks for her surgery wounds to heal to see if she could be able to control the urine and the fecal matter, doctors sent the tumor to the lab for further examination. It was later discovered that the tumor was cancerous, triggered by the defilement, compressing the nerves and organs of the little girl. This, doctors said, caused a lot of complications on the health of the young girl. Until her demise, she was put on chemotherapy, but her abdomen kept swelling. The remains of 5-year-old Ifya has been deposited at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital morgue in Kumasi.
Right, and now to the rest of our stories. Close to 400 women still die in Ghana in every 100,000 live births. One of government's solutions to this has been to build several community health posts, also called CHIPS compounds, especially in rural communities, to assist the country's poorest people. But with a human resource gap and a growing number of women who need maternal health services, these facilities are doing very little to encourage would-be mothers to access the life-saving health care services they need. In the second of a series of reports on poverty and inequalities in Ghana, Joy News' Justice Bay, a report from the Upper West Regional town of Dodoma on why babies are still dying at birth, even though a CHIPS compound is just 6 kilometers away.
The joy of motherhood. A 45-year-old woman cuddling her twin sons. But the story of how these children were born isn't quite as nice. Yibinena had to be carried onto a motorbike, hoping to make a 15-kilometer journey to the district hospital in Wichau, the capital of the Wa West district, to deliver. This was more than 10 hours after she had gone into labor. 5 kilometers into the journey, her first baby came out while she was still on the motorbike. The bike carried her, ran out of fuel, and she had to be carried back home to deliver the second.
When
I was pregnant, I suffered. I really suffered. I have given birth 8 times before my twins. Immediately after the first month in my pregnancy, I started falling sick. My chest, I was anemic, and the nearest clinic is 6 kilometers from here. And when I went there, they gave me only paracetamol. I had to go to the district capital. It is 15 kilometers away. When I got there, I could not walk. I didn't have money. My husband didn't have money. We only get money from burning charcoal, and because I was pregnant, I stopped the charcoal work. I didn't have money for transport.
Yibinena lives in Dodoma, a small community in the Wa West district of the Upper West region. Her village has no health facility, no electricity, and no road connecting it to the next village with a health post. Like many women in Dodoma, Yibinena has already lost 4 children in previous pregnancies and now is scared of giving birth again. This is Pensua. She has an even terrible story than Yibinena, bleeding 4 straight days in her last pregnancy. When she finally reached the closest CHIPS compound, she was told she had lost the baby.
There's a CHIPS compound 6 kilometers away, but when we go there, there are no nurses there. So we walk there and find that the facility is empty. So that is why we go to the district hospital. Even if you send a patient there, you won't find anybody there. It's an empty facility.
About 300 deaths are still recorded in every 100,000 live births in Ghana, despite the huge efforts made at reducing maternal mortality. This region is one of the leading casualties. This is the Talawana CHIPS compound. It's located about 6 miles away from the Dodoma community. It's supposed to be the first point of call for pregnant women in need of urgent health care. Government has recently built hundreds of such structures across many remote communities in Ghana. The problem, though, is that there are usually not enough health workers to work in them. And in instances where there are, they usually do not have the facilities or even the medicines to work with.
I want some boy jack as any 2 fees. I know, or 2 say 9 what fee her, and son of call one.
If I had given birth, it definitely would have been a human being, so I would have been happy to have him. But he died, so there's nothing I can do.
As much of the problems that cause these avoidable deaths persist, the women of Dodoma, like many expectant mothers across Ghana, would continue to live in fear of giving birth again. Justice Bedu, Joy News, Dodoma, Upper West Region.
The Director General in charge of services at the Ghana Police Service has re-echoed the need for Ghanaians to learn useful lessons from conflict-ridden countries and avoid acts that can possibly plunge the country into chaos as the nation prepares for the 2016 polls. COP James Opong Bueno was delivering a lecture at the second Osajifo Memorial Lecture at Doma Hinkro in the Brunhafo region. Here is Nestor Kafua Juma's report.
The Osajifo Memorial Lecture was instituted a year ago by the Doma Student Union in collaboration with the Doma Central Municipal Assembly. The lecture is in memoriam of the late Osajifo Osiadeyo Dr. Ajimambedu, who promoted the cultural heritage, unity, harmony, peace and progress of the people of Doma. Addressing participants, COP Opong Bueno stressed the need for all Ghanaians to strive towards safeguarding peace.
In our part of the world, due to the way our elections are contested, our society becomes polarized along political, religious, and tribal lines. There is therefore the need for all of us to come together and do whatever we can to ensure that we have peace before, during, and after this 2016 elections.
He cited the lack of electoral knowledge, use of vigilante groups by political parties, by some media houses as elements that contribute to political violence. COP James Opong Bueno advised traditional authorities on what they could do to help avert political disturbances. Doma Central Municipal Chief Executive Gordon Esubonting said the Municipal Security Council has taken steps to forestall any act of violence before, during and after the upcoming general election. He says the Assembly is working hard to get the youth engaged in the tourism industry in order to keep them away from unnecessary political violence.
The Assembly is making a lot of strategic investments in line with the vision and mission with a view to improving the competitiveness. Notable among them is the Assembly's avowed desire to develop and expand the potential in the tourism, culture and the creative arts industry. Pursuant to that, the Assembly has planned to apply part of a 2014 District Development Facility (DDF) for the construction of a befitting office accommodation, a guest room, and a summer hut with cafeteria to further develop the guest dining sanctuary.
This year's lecture was on the theme, Preserving Our Cultural Heritage Through Peaceful and Incident-Free Elections, the role of Domaman.
The Ghana Prisons Council is appealing for more support for its Efiase project to help alleviate the plight of prisoners nationwide. Chairman of the council, Reverend Dr. Steve Wengam, who made the appeal at a news conference in Accra on Monday, explained more funds are needed to improve facilities within the prisons to help in reforming inmates. Here is Beryl Richter's report.
Efiase project, which was launched on June 30, 2015 by President Mahama, has also been able to mobilize 200,000 Ghana cedi, although it set out a target of 25 million cedis. The project, which is an initiative of the council, is to create awareness about prison conditions and transform them into reformation centers. Addressing the media on Monday, Chairman of the council, Reverend Dr. Wengam, also enumerated the achievements of the project since its inception.
The Efiase is to do advocacy and sensitization aimed at changing perception toward the correction sector and the Ghana Prison Service as a whole, both locally and within the international community. And as for this one, Council will proudly score ourselves 101% because we've been able to put the Ghana Prison Service on the national agenda.
The council has also bemoaned the lack of a health facility for the service. Reverend Wingham revealed plans by the prison service to build a modern hospital to help cater for the health needs of prisoners, prison officers and the general public. He disclosed that already 7,000 out of 15,000 inmates have been registered under the National Health Scheme.
Our vision is to make sure that we get a modern prisons hospital. We keep building police stations. We are not building prisons. I don't know where the logic is from. We have police hospital, there's a military hospital. How come we don't have a hospital? We are the only security agency that takes custody of people. 15,000 inmates, 5,000 officers. So we are really working very hard and hope that through Project Efiase funds, we'll be able to build a modern prisons hospital.
The council has also been collaborating with the Justice for All programs, and according to Reverend Wingham, this has resulted in a remarkable improvement in the decongestion of the country's prisons.
Up next, we bring you entertainment. Right, so it's now time for sports, and Asari Bediako has joined me, and he's going to bring us all the results of the league matches played over the weekend.
The Super Clash ended 1-1.
Yeah. Well, it ended 1-1, and the fans of Asante Kotoko are thinking that it's like, they're taking it as if it's a victory, actually.
Yes,
but it's a draw.
Yes, it's a draw.
And Accra Suffolk is still on top of the league table, right?
Yes, on top of the table. 5 points more than Kotoko.
Oh, wow.
But it was a very interesting game. Very, very interesting game.
Yeah.
Ghana's version of the El Clasico.
El Clasico. Okay, you bring us all the details.
Okay, so let's talk sports here on Joy News Prime. My name is Asari Bediako. Let's begin from Kumasi, and after drawing 1-1 with rivals Hasselhoff in the Super Clash on Sunday, many fans of Asante Kotoko have called on management of the club to get a more experienced coach to help standing trainer Michael Osei, but a former coach of the club, Isaac Opeli-Boateng, doesn't think appointing a technical director is the solution.
Coaching is about philosophies, and philosophy is not scientifically based. It's about how a person sees things, how he wants the game to be played under his authority. So to me, bringing on a technical director is not going to help Kumasi Asante Kotoko. Michael Osei is already doing a good job for Kotoko. A technical director comes in, tells him, look, I want you to play flat back 4, or I want you to play zonal marking or man marking. And Michael will tell him, no, I want to play mixed zone. That's what they call as combination football. It brings conflicting perspectives or philosophies. So that will really derail Kumasi Asante Kotoko's progress in the league, and it will not help the football club. I think that Kotoko, you can never blame Michael Osei. He's done a good job so far. He's just working with players that were recruited without any coaching philosophy, wrong philosophy.
So for you, you'll be very disappointed if they are to go ahead and get a technical director.
Yeah, I'll be more than disappointed if they go ahead to get a technical director, unless Michael Osei pinpoints a coach that, oh, I want this coach to come in and help me as an advisor. Maybe it might not be official. The person might work behind the scenes. That would be fine. But saying to the world, we're bringing in a technical director, to me, that would be bogus.
Well, my name is Israel Lai. That'll be all for the bulletin. My name, you enjoy your evening.
This is Joy News Prime.